And hello and welcome to another episode on 100% Real with Ruby, where we have another wellness wankery episode with Tom Bainbridge. And today we completely scrapped our plan to talk about women and males when it comes to fat loss, results, hormones, eating and training to a menstrual cycle, and all the juicy shit that we confuse ourselves with online because there's just so much out there. And everyone is becoming a hormone expert these days. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And if there's anything you want us to rant about, just let me know.
But yeah, that whole women aren't just smaller men thing has done more fucking damage to women's training than anything. Because no, they're not just smaller men, but they're also not fucking fish. Like, we're not that different. And yeah, we'll get into that on the podcast. Yeah.
I just clicked recording, but as you can hear from what Tom just said, this is what we're talking about. We had today planned for artificial sweeteners and sugar, but we're saving that for next week now. This week, I saw a post about how women find it harder to lose fat than men, which is something we all want to hear because we're going to flock to it as women. Like, of course I want to hear that. I want to be told that there's this magic way to lose weight faster, or I just want to be justified for my struggles. But the matter of the fact is, it seems harder because we are smaller. We have less calories to play with. We have emotional things that can derail us due to our menstrual cycle. Regardless of whether we retain water or find it harder to see the scale drop or not, that has got nothing to do with the losing fat part of it. If anything, we get a boost once a month if we don't end up in the pantry once a month at the same time, which is what most people do because they have it in their head that they crave chocolate at a certain period of time. So they crave chocolate, and it's actually it's literally a mental thing. Unless you have really poor nutrition, it is a mental thing to go to chocolate because if you look at the European and Asian nations, some of them there, they end up craving chicken. They crave chicken, not chocolate. I saw a study, and I can't even remember. This is stuff from like way back when I used to listen to this stuff all the time. Like, it's a mental thing that we prepare ourselves for. We prepare ourselves to struggle, so then we struggle with pepper. Yeah, okay, there are also a lot of us, I'm not going to dismiss that. There are so many of us that have like PCOS, really debilitating periods and stuff like that. And I had a client say to me today, why am I not experiencing as much pain with this period? And it's the first time she's like, is this my hormones balancing? And I'm just leaving that there. If she listens to this, she'll keep believing it until she decides to listen to my podcast and change her mind. But yeah, it can be your hormones balancing because you're starting to do healthier things, eat healthier, move more, which balances your hormones. It makes you more insulin sensitive. But you also increase your pain tolerance when you start training the right way. Like, there are so many different things that can impact how your periods then impact you. Yes, your hormones will be balanced because what needs balancing has to do more with your lifestyle. So sleeping better, actually exercising, training, moving more, all these things put your body into a healthier place to then not have to experience such debilitating periods. And that is what people don't understand. Like, you're not doom and gloom every single time. And if you expect it, you'll keep getting it. But back to the original topic of this whole conversation, men do not lose fat faster than women, but we can struggle more because they might only need a slight deficit, whereas we have, but they can do a larger deficit. But if we do a larger deficit, we're left on like 1,200, 1,300, maybe 1,500 calories. That doesn't leave a lot for getting in protein, for getting in enough satiety, for getting in the nutrients we need for metabolism and energy. Over to you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, just on the chocolate thing and like craving chocolate, it is really interesting. So what it seems to be is that during certain times in your menstrual cycle, you just crave comfort foods, and it doesn't need to be placed as any more complex than that. Like, I've seen people say, oh, you crave chocolate because you're deficient in magnesium and chocolate has magnesium. It's absolute bollocks. So my dad lived in China for most of my adult life, and his wife, she craves spicy foods because she's from an area in China where like everything is spicy. So her comfort food is extremely spicy things. And so that just obviously that's a anecdote, but it just kind of illustrates that what you're craving is the comfort food. And for a lot of people in English-speaking nations, the comfort food is chocolate. But elsewhere, it's different. So, yeah, if anyone tries to tell you, oh, if you crave chocolate, it's because you're deficient in magnesium. No, that's not true. I think the biggest area in the whole male versus female coaching thing is, and this is where I'm going to put my little conspiracy hat on and sound extremely cynical. For the longest time, the fitness industry just ignored the fact that women exist. All the research was done on men because men don't have menstrual cycles for the most part. And so we're a lot easier to study. You don't have to control for that shit. And so most of what we know about exercise physiology and most of what we know about like the effect of nutrients on the body and so on, that was gathered researching men. And then people started to realize that that's probably not a very good way to do things, and women started being included in studies. And there's a few interesting aspects there, like for instance, at different times in menstrual cycle, because of fluctuating levels of estrogen, women metabolize caffeine differently, so that the half-life of caffeine can be different during the luteal and the follicular phases, for instance. So there are some meaningful differences there. But it very much feels as though a subset of fitness professionals, and for those who aren't fitness professionals, you won't know this, but in the fitness industry, we fitness professionals are bombarded all of the time by marketing gurus and people who call themselves business coaches, who promise that they can teach you the secrets of marketing and how to get unlimited numbers of clients. And a lot of these marketing courses and so on talk all the time about narrowing on something called a niche, which is, if you think of all of the people who might hire a fitness professional, if you try to market to everybody, you'll be kind of like milk toast. No one will really give a shit about your messaging. But if you can really narrow down your messaging for a specific subset of people who might be interested in a fitness professional, yeah, you won't appeal to most people, but you'll really appeal to them. And the idea that you need to find these niches is like really drilled into us as fit pros. And a lot of people, it very much feels as though they've just gone, women who want fat loss, that's a good niche. And so what that means is that you've got all of these fitness professionals and all of these health people who are just pumping out content that is designed to imply that women need these really hyper-specific methods for fat loss and women need these hyper-specific methods for training. And literally all it is marketing. And if you look at the evidence, this is not my original thought. I can't remember who did this, but this isn't me. But they did this fantastic breakdown, and what they essentially said was when we're talking about, for instance, nutrition for fat loss, the evidence is really clear that women metabolize nutrients differently at different times of the menstrual cycle. So there'll be certain times when you'll be more likely to oxidize fat. There'll be certain times when you're more likely to oxidize carbohydrates. That's really clear. What's not so clear is whether or not that matters. So whether or not that actually influences rates of fat loss. And what's even less clear, to the point where we're just literally guessing, is the idea that you need to specifically program nutrition according to that. So try not, we talked about this last time I was on the show. Mechanisms are cheap. Mechanisms you can talk about all day, but they don't necessarily mean anything. So just because you'll see in someone's post, women metabolize fat at certain times in the cycle and fat differently in different times of the cycle, that doesn't mean that you need to change your nutrition accordingly, because the evidence, although this seems counterintuitively, doesn't actually suggest that that's the case.
And I want to also throw onto this. This is where it can kind of get really confusing as well, because there's a lot of menopause information out there. A lot of like, women need to train a specific way. You need to do HIIT training. And people don't understand that weight training is HIIT training. That is high intensity training. That is getting the same adaptation. And if anything, you're better off just doing steady state cardio because it's less taxing. It's better recoverability. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, women with menopause are just the new niche, unfortunately, and that sounds really harsh, because women with menopause, they need coaching. You guys need information. That's all really important. But you've been ignored for so long, and the reason you're not being ignored now is because there are a ton of coaches who have gone, I can market to these people, and that's why the information economy has spread there. And it all kind of comes down to exactly as you said, Ruby, like this idea that we're justifying why women tend to find weight loss harder. And it sounds comforting to hear, I can assume, oh, well, it's a hormone reason, it's this reason. And what I think is really important to separate is weight loss is harder, and weight loss is harder because of physiological reasons that you can't change. They're two kind of different things. I mean, one of the big reasons why women find weight loss harder is because snack foods were designed for men. So if I buy a chocolate bar, for example, most chocolate bars in the UK, because of some weird legislation, most chocolate bars in the UK are about 210 to 230 calories for a single portion, because they were kind of forced to do that. Now, 210 calories is about, what, 5% of most men's daily calorie requirement. It's over 10% of most women's daily calorie requirement. And so if we both make the same quote unquote poor choice, it hits you way harder than it would ever hit me. And that's not fair, but it is. And it's for reasons like that that weight loss can be harder. The average biscuit is a significantly higher percentage of your calorie requirement than it is mine. So I can get away with more shit than you can. And that's not fair, but it just is. And it's for little silly reasons like that, rather than looking at hormones and stuff. And so the solution to that is to be, first of all, mindful of the fact that, yeah, the world wasn't created with women who want fat loss in mind. And secondly, just to be hyper cautious about charlatans who are happy to sell you like hormone balancing protocols.
Yeah, and this post that I got a little bit triggered at, even though it's from someone who's like someone I look up to because he is very educated. It's like, who cares who burns more fat and who burns more carbs at rest? It's got nothing to do with the ability to actually lose fat in the general sense, because that all comes down to the calorie deficit in the end. And when you're training, you're still going to burn carbs if it's at a higher intensity, regardless of any of that anyway. Yeah, okay, if you're highly stressed out, you're going to be running off sugar, but like, we are more prone to stress. That's a given, but that's just going to put us into more of a calorie surplus. It makes things harder for us, but it doesn't make losing weight any more difficult. Because the point of the fact with what I just said is, when we are more stressed, yeah, okay, we'll burn more sugar versus fat at rest. So then we'll burn out of our sugars, and then we'll start craving more sugar because then our body wants the energy. So then what do? We eat these higher sugar, higher fat, higher whatever, higher calorie foods. And then that puts us into a surplus, or it stops us staying in a deficit. And then, like I was saying before, it's got nothing to do with the fact that we have a harder time losing weight than men. It's just the fact that we're smaller. We have less calories to play with. But the funny thing is that when I'm talking as my active self, not my right now here today self, on a normal occasion, I'm eating a lot more than some of the guys that try to lose weight. Like, I had to try, like, there was a group that I was in where there were guys eating friggin' 1,800 calories trying to lose weight, 1,700 calories trying to lose weight, with their protein at abysmal levels. Like, it's just the people you see that are succeeding are the ones that are doing really freaking well. And you can see women doing the exact same thing. But the funny part of it all is, the reason men find it so freaking easy to lose weight is because they're not spending most of their time doing what women spend most of their time doing, which is the booty band workouts, the 15 rep workouts, the fluffing about in the gym, the chronically dieting all the time. And their food choices typically tend to be more high in protein, higher in veggies. Like, they eat more of those bro meals. They're not these big foodies the same way that women are. And when they are, like we were just saying, they have more of a buffering capacity because they have more calories to play with.
I 100% agree. And I actually think you touched on something really important there about how oftentimes men are not chronic dieters. So to let my inner social justice warrior out, women have been bombarded with diet culture messaging for forever. It's significantly better now than it used to be, but I mean, mainstream magazines for women were all about dieting for a really long time. The cabbage soup diet was like a big thing in the UK. I don't know if it's spread elsewhere, but it was just basically this idea that women ate cabbage soup twice a day, which is just cabbage, water, and salt. And then for your evening meal, you eat, like, I don't know, a boiled egg or something. And this was the messaging that women were bombarded with for ages. Something I've spoken to my clients about a lot is, a lot of my clients grew up with mothers who were always dieting. and like their mother would come home and they would tell them about how they felt awful about their body, so spreading this like negative body image from mother to daughter. So it's like an intergenerational thing, talking about their diets all the time. And I think that kind of mentality it affects us in really subtle ways. So my neighbors are a fantastic example. So our next door neighbors are like some of our best friends. We've been very, very fortunate to live next to some really cool people, but they're not fitness people. She is a housewife. He works for like a builder's merchant. He rides a bike once a week in the summer, and that's about the extent of his exercise, and he just doesn't give a shit. He's quite overweight. But they both tried to lose weight at the start of this year because they went on holiday. What did he do? He ate fewer takeaways. He swapped the Coca-Cola that he was drinking for water, and he stopped drinking during the week, and that was about it. What did she do? She went on a low-carb diet. She started to cut out food in the morning, so she tried intermittent fasting, and she only tried to eat clean foods. He lost way more weight than she did because he wasn't eating chocolate bars in the evening because he wasn't starving to death. Like, he just made some healthy, sensible choices, ate a bit less, tried to do a bit more exercise, and then that was about it. And she tried to do this really extreme approach. And it's not because she's a fitness person who thinks she has to eat clean or anything. It's because they're in their like early 50s. They're of the generation where that was what dieting was. Whereas he was never bombarded with that information, so he never did it. And it's amazing in speaking to the clients that I have now. The most of clients that I have are sort of like 30s and 40s, a little bit younger. Their parents just spread that information to them. And yeah, I honestly think that ironically, one of the reasons why men tend to find it easier to lose weight is because we don't make it harder for ourselves on average. Obviously, there's,
Yeah, like there was the argument as well that men have testosterone and they were demonizing estrogen and stuff like that as well. But the thing is, yeah, but that's the point. Estrogen actually holds our muscle a lot better than men can hold muscle. Like, we can hold muscle slightly better than men because of estrogen. And it also allows us to recover faster. So we have a little bit slight advantage there. Like, there are places where we have an advantage if we actually use it to our advantage. But we don't. We just do stupid shit and we try to lose fat and build muscle at the same time, which, yeah, that's what men try to do as well. But they're the ones that still look the same year in, year out as well. Like, not every single guy is looking like freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, I should probably say David Hoffman or someone that's more of a beach body guy, because that's kind of the more attractive guy physique than Arnold Schwarzenegger. But that's the same with females. Like, those that train really hard, those that have built their calories up, have an easier time losing weight. Like, here's an example, even though it probably wasn't even all fat, but who freaking knows? But when I had to do my month of friggin' keto because of the gut issue that I was going through, I dropped from 58 to 55 kilos. Like, that was 3 kilo drop. That wouldn't have been all water. Who freaking knows what that was? But over that month, I lost 3 kilos. And that's also because I don't like a lot of food that I had at my disposal. And I couldn't really eat that high protein either, because my goal was to keep my protein less than 200. And I don't really like that many fat sources. So it didn't really leave me with all that many calories. Because if I jacked my protein up anymore, protein is hard to digest. I was already having gut issues. So it's got nothing to do with the fact. Like, I was still on 2,000 calories and I was losing weight because most of my year is spent 2,600, 2,700. That is the difference between a female that finds it easier to lose weight / a female that doesn't. And also the fact that I've now built a lot of muscle mass. I've done this for long enough. Get a guy that's new to everything, and he's not going to be able to lose weight just as fast if he's just a normal average build. That's the skinny fat guy that you see walking around that struggles just as much as a female. It's just that we're comparing the best apple with the rottest peach.
It's a very fair point, yeah. It's a very fair point. I mean, like, to kind of circle into a lot of women treat calories as like bad things. And it's not because women are stupid. It's because women have been told for a very long time that calories are like a low calorie option is a better option. And that's just like the standard thing. And no one finds it easier to lose weight than some of my female athletes who are on like 2,800 calories a day at 60 kilos body weight because they train really hard. Not like these aren't professional athletes. They're people with jobs that train 4 times a week and do a bit of cardio on a weekend, and they can eat a lot of food. And so because they are eating a lot of food, because they're really active, they can drop down to 2,000 calories and lose weight. Whereas if it's the do as much exercise as possible and eat as little as possible approach, that will slow weight loss down. Nothing slows weight loss down more than trying to speed weight loss up, because you can't do it. It's just the way of the world. To kind of loop back to one thing that we did mention at the very start, though, because I know that this was initially kicked off by a post that's about like hormone balancing and such. Yep.
That was just something. What did you just say? ADHD brain. You said something that was really powerful.
Trying to speed weight loss up or slow it down.
Yes. The thing that a lot of people do when they try to speed weight loss up is that they keep taking extreme measures to the point where now they're creating a pull-up, like a drag effect, where they're going to go in the opposite direction. And then, like, it's not even that you're conscious of it. It's the fact that, okay, now that you don't have as much of a buffer room, you're picking at things, you're nibbling at things. Something that I do even now, which is a really bad habit. I'm sorry, I'm admitting to it, but you guys can actually know now too. I put something on the scale, I weigh it, I put it on the plate, blah, blah, and then I eat some out of the packet while I'm getting the packet back away, or I'll be at the fridge. I'll nibble at it until I get to the scale. But I'm lucky that those aren't high calorie foods. It's more like the veggies. It's more like my jar of pickles. I'll get like a spoon out of the pickles before I even put the pickles on the jar to weigh out what I need, which is probably like 10 calories. But people do that with like cereals, nut butters, things that are actually calorie dense, and you don't actually think about it this time because of the fact you're in this huge deprived state. Continue.
No, 100%. I mean, so one of the big things that I want the listeners to look out for, if this is something that affects you, so if you're a woman, you try and lose weight, you're going to be bombarded with a ton of messaging about like hormone balance and such, and you're also going to be bombarded with, oh, at this time in the menstrual cycle, estrogen's doing this, and because estrogen's doing this, blah, blah. I tend to refer to this as like hormone first thinking. And while it may seem counterintuitive because, oh, if I think more about my hormones, then of course I'm going to be doing things better. That makes sort of like intuitive sense. It's just not true. Tracking your menstrual cycle is useful. You should track your menstrual cycle. But the reason you should track your menstrual cycle is not because you're going to preemptively do stuff differently. So it's not the case that it's like, right, okay, I'm at week 3. So because I'm at week 3, I need to do this with my carbs. I need to do this with my fats. Or, right, because I'm in week 4 now, I need to do this with my training. That's not the case. What you need to do is, or what you would benefit from doing, you can do whatever the hell you want. I'm not your dad. But what you would probably benefit from doing is, if you track your menstrual cycle and you're just like, right, okay, in week 1, my motivation's really high. In week 1, I tend to enjoy training a little bit more. And in week 1, I'm not that hungry. Okay, week 3, I've started to notice that my mood's dipping a little bit. My body image is not necessarily what it was. So like week 3 or week 4 or whatever, I'm having a lot of like negative thoughts about my body image. My weight's starting to creep up a little bit, even though I haven't done differently. All of that is really useful information that you can keep an eye on, because then you can contextualize these kinds of things. So if you're sat there and you're like, oh, my body image is rubbish, like I hate what I look like, none of my clothes feel nice, I can't be bothered with training, you can look back at your diary and go, oh, I always feel like this at week 3. This is fine. I'll be all right. This is going to come back. For that reason, I'm a big proponent of tracking your menstrual cycle. But don't use that to then make predictions and act upon them, because you don't need to. Anyone who tells you, right, in week X of your menstrual cycle, you need to do this with your nutrition, or in order to balance your hormones, you need to do this special thing. No, don't think like that. As Ruby says, if you are living a relatively unhealthy lifestyle and you start living a healthier lifestyle, that will have positive effects on your hormones. But you didn't need to think about your hormones to know that you'd benefit from doing that. Like, I don't have to tell you what it's going to do to your cortisol and your estrogen and your progesterone to tell you that if you're currently inactive, exercising 3 times a week is going to be kind of good for you. And so what we need to remember is that anyone who is using your hormones to do that is probably trying to sell you something. Like, they're probably, like, they're dressing up good advice as special advice. And that's a thing that people do when they're not very good at giving good advice.
I think that's actually the perfect way to sum this up. Your menstrual cycle, you need to understand where your body image cycles, where your thoughts cycle, because it's very common to knee jerk your way into doing really stupid shit that just keeps you stuck more. If you're like, oh my God, I don't like how my belly feels right now. I feel like I'm getting fatter. I feel like I'm bigger. When all of that's just a fragment of your imagination, which is a very real thing. But at the same time, it isn't real because it is entrenched in emotions, and that those emotions are real, but the feelings aren't real. So you need to be able to separate your emotions from your feelings, from your logic, and be able to say, okay, so am I tracking all my food correctly? Am I doing all my steps? Am I doing everything that I need to do? Like, this is where the focus on the process becomes the most important thing, because if you focus on the process and you say, okay, I'm doing all the things that I need to do in the process, it doesn't matter about what I'm feeling right now, because if I just focus on the process, then I'm going to get to the outcome regardless. And that's exactly what matters the most. And God, it really pisses me off when people do these stupid, you need to train like this or do this. It's like, know your body. If you can't train on a particular day of your cycle because you're cramping with endo or PCOS symptoms or whatever the hell has you like just not able to do anything, or even if you just are in a place in your life where you haven't yet optimized your lifestyle and you're suffering really bad periods, then just swap your rest days around or just go for a walk. Try not to do nothing, because nothing will make it worse. Go for a walk. It actually helps.
Yeah, I mean, I've got clients who will message us and they're like, oh, it's day one today, I ain't going to the gym. And it's like, fine, cool, that's grand. That's the kind of adjustment that you need to be making. Or so one thing that I'm really big on is all of my clients understand RPE skills, so rate of perceived exertion. If you've never heard of these before, there's, for whatever reason, the proper RPE scale goes from 6 to 22.
I hate RPE more than anything.
It's never made sense. But
my mentor hates RPE because it's like people don't even know what failure training feels like, but it's easy with you because you have athletes.
Well, I think it's something you can learn. But anyway, the important thing is that RPE is supposed to be subjective. So if I ask you to do a set and it's like, right, we're going to do a set at RPE 7, that means it's 70% hard. It's quite hard, but your last rep was fairly comfortable. RPE 8, your last rep should be quite difficult, and so on and so on. I really like RPE-based training because it accounts for the natural fluctuations that are going to happen in your day-to-day life. So if I say, right, you're going to go to the gym and you're going to do 100 kilos for 5 reps. I programmed that a week ago. I have no idea how you feel that day. It might be the case that for whatever reason, you didn't sleep that well last night. It might be that work's been really stressful this week. There are a ton of reasons that might lead it to be the case that that is an inappropriate recommendation. However, if I was to say to you, right, we're going to go and we're going to do 5 reps with between about 92.5 and 110 kilos, but I want it to be RPE 8. At that point, you've then got some auto-regulation in there. I hope that makes sense. Like I realize I just said a bunch of numbers on a podcast, which tends to throw people off, but you get the basic idea. Rather than recommending a specific number, I recommend a range and tell you how hard it's supposed to be. That then means that people who don't sleep well or people who are stressed can take a bit of weight off the bar. It means that people who go into the gym feeling $1 million can add a bit more weight to the bar. And this accounts for menstrual cycle fluctuations. That's all I do. I don't program special things around the menstrual cycle. I don't have certain weeks where we train with high volume, certain weeks where we train strength because I've matched it to the menstrual. No, you don't need to do it. There's no evidence that that leads to better outcomes. In fact, the research that exists in this area indicates that RPE-based training is as effective as menstrual cycle-based training, and it's way more effective in general anyway, so that it's what I use.
So the way that I say it, just so, because a lot of people do not actually know RPE crap, and I think it's silly just because of the way that Luke's been speaking about it, but the way that Tom has described it is you need to understand that giving your best every single session looks different every single session. So your best effort one day, when you're probably in your first week of your cycle where, okay, now you're stronger than ever, your best then could look like $1 million. But then your best on the very last week when you're in your luteal phase might look half of that. That is still you giving your best. And it might look as an absolute RPE 6, but that is still your RPE 9, 10 giving your best effort. It's just that when you zoom out, it's just less compared to usual, but it's still your very best. And that's the best that you can give. You just need to know where you can push yourself to your best limits for that day.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's the only thing you need to do to program around the menstrual cycle. So again, anyone who tells you they've got a special protocol, they are thinking of you as a member of a niche and not a person.
I love that. That's perfect. That's a great way to end this. So now, next week, we will be talking about artificial sweeteners. Honestly. And we will actually be talking about artificial sweeteners and sugar. And I hope this clarified anything for you. If you see anyone talking about training around the menstrual cycle, around women needing these special protocols or needing to do HIIT and sprints, not low intensity cardio or whatever else, then you need to understand that what they're trying to say is you don't want to do long periods of running because that's stupid in itself. It's more so you're better off doing steps, and understand that interval training is the same thing as freaking weights. It's the same thing. Like, yeah, okay, cool, we can benefit a lot out of doing intervals. It can get a lot done in a shorter period of time, but that's also where our recovery needs to come into place, especially going into menopause. The walking is going to help with our recovery. The walking is going to help with all that stuff. Adding in more HIIT is actually worse when you could just be doing more strength training, which is the exact same freaking thing, which is what pisses me off most about it.
Like it. I'm just taking a photo of my podcast setup here because we've got, love it.
It's like I have to be in it. So with that,
we've got
that is all.
The dog has been here for the whole time, so
tag me in it. I'm sharing it. But yeah, yes, tag me in it, because what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this onto my Instagram story so you guys can see that you're gonna be getting a really good whammy of women's stuff. But yeah, next week we'll be on, and see you then. Hear you then. Hear us then. That stuff.
Cheers, guys.